Okay, quick video for you guys. If you've ever made a mistake reloading and you didn't catch that mistake until after you finish your cartridge, then you might be in the situation I'm in, where I'm going to have to dismantle live rounds and try to correct my mistake. So here's the situation. These are 300 blackout rounds that I did. They've got some Russian 7.62 by 39 tips in there. They're fully primed and ready to go, except for they're not ready to go. So obviously if you're reloading, it's a good idea to have a case gauge checker. I've got the Lyman here for 300 blackout, and here's the dilemma. I loaded these all up, and here's some brass that I've dismantled. Okay, that's bad. That's supposed to sit flush. It's supposed to drop in flush. You got a ridge on the top and a groove on the bottom too. It's supposed to be sitting within that groove, not below it, not above it. Within that groove to be in the tolerant range for SAMI specs. So obviously this sitting up here like that, something went wrong, I think, in my sizing process. So we've got like fully loaded cartridge here. I tested it out in this gauge after the fact, and look at this. That's bad. You don't want to load that in your rifle. Something went wrong. I'm not sure exactly what, and hopefully posting this video you guys can help me out in figuring out where I went wrong. So now we got to dismantle these live rounds, and that's what I've been doing. I actually went through, I think I loaded up like 100 of these before I realized I'm an idiot. So we're going to spend some time learning and dismantling live ammunition and then putting it back together properly, hopefully. So what I've been doing is I've been reusing the gunpowder that's coming out of the brass. There's no reason why not. I don't see any reason why not. It's good little gunpowder. I'm using these projectiles here, which are steel core. I got this Russian bulk. These are actually pulled bullets, and well, now they're pulled twice. So this is my plinking round, and I know some of you might say, well, be careful because these are not necessarily 308. I think they're 312, 0.312 of an inch, but that's okay. I stuffed them through a bullet sizer, and I resized them down to 309. So I think I'm good. I'm using this Lee single stage press with the RCBS bullet puller. So it's got a 30 caliber cullet in there, or a little sleeve, to yank my bullets, and then go through the rest of the process of dismantling the live round. It's really simple, so I'm going to show you quick how I do that. So with the RCBS bullet puller, it's really simple. You just screw it into your die. It doesn't matter where you screw it to, and you screw your whatever caliber sleeve for whatever bullet you're going to pull. So in this case, 30 caliber, and you just take your cartridge and throw it in the base there, like so, and then you just make sure this is loose, and then you pull the ram up till it stops. Don't reef on it, don't use any force, and then you can just tighten this, and that crimps down on the bullet, and then you can raise the ram up. Let's see if I can do it here one-handed. I'm not going to be able to do it one-handed because, oh here, hold on. There we go. Pull this handle up, lowers the ram, and pulls your bullet. It's really simple. Now, the only reason I have trouble doing it one-handed is because my crimps are pretty heavy on these rounds. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Now you've got your casing full of gunpowder that you're going to have to dump out in here. Now this was a compressed load, I think, so I've actually got to kind of work that gunpowder out, which I'll do. And so like I mentioned with the crimped rounds, if you're having troubles getting it out because it's crimp tight, the instructions just say to use your bullet seater to actually seat the bullet a little bit further, and that'll help break the crimp, and then go ahead and put your puller die back in, and you should be able to pull the bullet out. I haven't been having to reseat these. I've just been reefing on them if they were tight, but for the most part they've gone pretty smooth. I've pulled all these guys, and I'm cleaning up the brass again. Now you got to keep in mind this is still primed brass, right? So it's something you got to be wary of. Don't go crazy. But the next step for me now is to clean out the brass of all the gunpowder, because it was a little bit compressed, some of it stuck in there. Make sure it's all cleaned out, and then I'm going to resize them while they're primed. So let's do that. So resizing, I'm using RCBS full-length sizing die. I've got live primers in these casings, so it is very important to pull the decapping pin out of here. That's the way to do it, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. It just unscrews when you pull it all apart. Take out the decapping pin, and then you can go ahead and carefully resize your die. As long as it's cleaned and lubed a little bit, then you're good to go. There's a little bullet sitting there, so you just loosen this off. And there she is. Okay, out with the bullet puller, in with the full-length sizing die. Got a little bit of lube on these guys. These are the primed cases that we got to be a little bit careful with. Don't want to slam them around, I guess. I don't know. Pull out all the gunpowder and pull out all the bullets. And let's get them resized and see if they fit into my case gauge. Beauty. Okay, the brass is all sized, fitting nicely. Made a new recipe. I'm going to go with 18 grains of lil gun with my powder measure here, and that's going to fire, what is this bullet anyways? Oh, that's wrong. Yeah, these projectiles are in the range of around 123, 122 grains. So that's going to be our recipe. That should be okay. Get it all loaded up and see if they fit the case gauge. And then we're going to shoot them. Pretty gunpowder. So we got 18 grains of little gun in these 300 black cartridges that are almost complete. We're going to stuff some bullets in them and give them a tiny bit of a crimp, and Bob's your uncle. That's how we do the disassembly of live ammunition and reassembly. Okay, so interesting thing that I figured out that seems to be the root of my problem is all of the brass that's not fitting my case gauge properly is the same brass with a specific head stamp. This stuff here is not gauging properly. It gauges properly before I load it, but not after. And what I've figured out is it's got slightly thicker brass walls. So what happens is when I put my bullet in, because it has a thicker inside diameter or whatever, just thicker brass in general, the bullet gets seated and pushes it out a bit to make it go out of spec. So I've isolated all this brass that's causing me problems. Now the only other thing to check is I am using 7.62x39 bullets, which normally have a .312 diameter, so I should double check and make sure that they are closer to 308, because I did push them through a sizer. I pushed them into 309, but maybe that's my problem. But either way, it's all the same brass is causing me problems, and the rest of the brass isn't. So it might be a combination of thicker brass with slightly larger diameter bullets that's causing it not to chamber properly in my gauge here. So these are chambering fine, but they're not loaded up. So that seems to be the issue. Whatever this brass is, it's not that it's bad brass, it's just probably not ideal for 300 blackout because it's got the thicker walls. But that's what I figured out so far. If you guys are super knowledgeable in this, put some comments down below and maybe you know, give me some info on what you have experienced, what you think it might be, and maybe I'm doing something totally wrong and you can point me in the right direction. But that's what I figured out so far, and that's it. So I'm getting respectable diameters. Like, it's not like these projectiles are like way too big. So I don't think that's a problem. I think it is the brass. And the one thing to note though, that these pulled rounds, those pulled bullets aren't exactly consistent. There's a lot of differences between them. Not a lot, but I mean, they've been pulled, so they got some dents in them, and they don't, there's, you know, variances in the weight and the diameters. They're not super consistent rounds, so they're definitely not match grade rounds, but that's fine. I'm just using these bullets for like plinking rounds, but I can only use them at an outdoor range for plinking because they are steel core. So, but super cheap. I think it was only like $150 or something for 1,000. So I'm gonna try to make use of them and have some fun. So just a quick note, if you guys are trying to repurpose AK-47 or 7.62x39 bullets, projectiles, into 300 blackout, the overall length is pretty short, so I'm not even seating these to where they were originally crimped. There's plenty of neck still grabbing a hold of the bullet, but I'm trying to extend them out as much as I can to get a longer overall length because they're just too short. They won't feed in my Ruger Ranch rifle in 300 black. That's a bolt action rifle. I cannot get these to feed. They're just too short. They end up jamming up into the top of the feed ramp area or whatever in the barrel there. And I am stretching them out longer anyways, just to maybe mitigate some feeding issues in the AR platform as well. They seem to feed and chamber okay in my AR-15, so we're gonna go with this length, just a random length I picked, just I don't know what it is, but they should feed fine in the AR-15. So these are going to be plinking rounds for AR-15, or if I want to jam them into the rifle, the bolt action rifle by hand, which I probably don't want to do. I'd have to find a plinking round for the Ruger Ranch rifle that is a little bit longer. Maybe get some like, what do we got, like 7.62 by 54. Those look like longer projectiles that I could pull out and use for the bolt action rifle. But that's it. We put together the cartridge again, and so let's test it out. Not bad. I do have like a question though. Once they're loaded, oh yeah, no, this drops in good. There, so now I shouldn't have any issues firing these suckers. And that's it. So that's how you disassemble a live round, reassemble it properly, and head out to the range and we'll test these out.